Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa is a name that is seldom remembered, but which was crucial in ensuring the rise of Rome to its imperial prime. He commanded decisive victories as a general, especially at the Battle of Actium, defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra. He transformed the Roman navy into an invincible force as a naval commander, ensuring Roman rule in the Mediterranean. And as a builder, he left his legacy with works such as the Pantheon and the modernizing aqueducts. Now, let's find out the full story of the man who was Emperor Augustus's right-hand man. Agrippa was born in 63 BC into a modest plebeian family, the Vipsana, in some place in Italy, possibly in Arpino. Not much is known about his early life, but it is certain that Agrippa had a military and political education befitting a young Roman aspiring to public life, especially given the tumultuous political context of his youth. His friendship with Gaius Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, was a key factor in his career progression. Agrippa and Octavian were brought up close to each other, possibly because their families had some sort of social ties, although they were from different classes. In his work Parallel Lives, Plutarch mentioned that Agrippa and Octavian studied together under the guidance of the philosopher Apollonius of Rhodes. This Greek expert, well known for his wisdom and ability to inspire promising young men, had an enormous influence on their intellectual and philosophical background. Agrippa, under Apollonius's guidance, not only studied the military arts, but also developed a profound understanding of political issues, something that would prove crucial in his later life as Octavian's advisor. His friendship with Octavian was instrumental to Agrippa's future. He was the great-nephew and heir of Julius Caesar, which conferred on him a position of prestige. Although Agrippa came from a less prominent family, he succeeded in standing out as Octavian's close confidant and advisor due to his loyalty and abilities. In his book, The Lives of the 12 Caesars, Suetonius noted that Agrippa was seen as one of the few in whom Octavian trusted from the earliest days of his youth. After his first years of training, Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa embarked on the path that would shape him into one of Rome's greatest generals and strategists. His political and military growth was closely tied to his loyal and alliance with Gaius Octavianus, the soon-to-be Emperor Augustus. Following the death of Julius Caesar in 44 BC, Rome entered a turbulent period of civil wars, and it was against this backdrop that Agrippa emerged as one of Octavian's main military cornerstones. Julius Caesar's death signaled a turning point for Rome and for Octavian. Appointed Caesar's heir in his will, Octavian, at the time only 18 years old, faced immense resistance from rival political and military factions. As his longtime friend, Agrippa was one of the few people in whom Octavian could fully trust. He had his first major military trial at the Battle of Medina in 43 BC. At the time, Octavian was fighting against Mark Antony, who had been an ally of Julius Caesar, but who was now turning into one of the main rivals to take control of Rome. At that point, the young commander Agrippa led Octavian's troops in the fight against the Antonine forces. Although he initially struggled to gain military and political support, Agrippa was fundamental in ensuring that the legions under Octavian's command remained loyal and disciplined. Agrippa excelled tactically, leading Octavian's troops with efficiency and helping to win the battle against Antony. While the victory at Medina did not immediately resolve the conflict between Octavian and Antony, it was crucial in consolidating Octavian's power and boosting his influence in the Roman Senate. In his histories, Tacitus describes Agrippa as a commander with a well-disciplined mind and unwavering strength, emphasizing his immense importance at this pivotal moment in Octavian's career. Immediately after the Battle of Modena, Octavian formed the Second Triumvirate in 43 BC, a political alliance between himself, Mark Antony, and Lepidus. This was designed to eliminate their common enemies and consolidate power over Rome. During the Triumvirate era, Agrippa not only continued to be a trusted commander in military campaigns, but also worked to bolster Octavian's power base in Italy and other regions. His role in quelling revolts and maintaining order in Italy was paramount during this spell. Whereas Mark Antony was primarily focused on his campaigns in the east, Agrippa remained in Italy, dealing with internal insurgencies and ensuring that the western provinces remained loyal to Octavian. Italy was a key region for Rome's control, and the stability that Agrippa provided during these years ensured that Octavian could concentrate his efforts on the power struggle with Antony and Lepidus. Agrippa's chief challenge during this period was the conflict against Sextus Pompey, the son of the well-known general Pompey the Great. Sextus commanded Sicily and other strategic Mediterranean areas, from where he carried out naval raids that threatened Rome's food supply. His fleet posed a significant threat since it dominated the western Mediterranean and prevented the grain from flowing to Rome, which was crucial for the population's survival and stability. Agrippa was commissioned to face this threat and quickly began to reorganize and strengthen Octavian's naval fleet. He brought out tactical innovations that would ultimately secure the success of the Roman forces. Agrippa displayed his skills as a strategist by developing new naval tactics, including using the corvus, a boarding device that allowed his soldiers to storm enemy ships more easily. This innovation allowed Agrippa to offset the numerical superiority of Sextus Pompey's fleet. As a naval leader, his skills proved vital during the prolonged conflict with Sextus Pompey. He led a string of naval campaigns along the Italian and Sicilian coasts, culminating in the 36 BC Battle of Naulochus, where Agrippa achieved a decisive victory over Pompey. This triumph not only guaranteed Octavian's control over the Mediterranean, but also wiped out one of his greatest rivals on the road to total domination of Rome. In his Roman history, Dio Cassius states that Agrippa, with his naval victory, sealed the fate of Rome and his master Octavian by dominating the seas as no one had done before. Leading a fleet of around 300 ships, Agrippa faced Pompey's naval might, which had a fleet of comparable size. This naval battle was one of the most crucial in Roman history, establishing control over the Mediterranean, and, in turn, the fate of the conflict between Octavian and Pompey. Additionally, Agrippa's victory over Pompey consolidated his standing as one of Rome's greatest naval commanders and as Octavian's main general. Agrippa was now seen as essential, not only for his loyalty, but for his ability to win where others would fail. With Sextus Pompey vanquished and the internal civil wars over, Rome's power was split mainly between Octavian in the west and Mark Antony in the east. In 32 BC, war between them was inevitable. Tensions reached their climax, and the two sides began to gather their forces for a decisive showdown. Octavian gave Agrippa the leadership of his naval fleet, aware that the sea battle would be the linchpin for success against Antony, whose power base was in Egypt and the east. Prior to the crucial confrontation, Agrippa was tasked with disrupting Antony and Cleopatra's supply routes. He unleashed a series of naval campaigns that isolated Antony's forces, raiding ports and controlling access routes to the eastern Mediterranean. Agrippa's tactics were successful in weakening Antony's position even before direct confrontation. On September 2nd, 31 BC, the Battle of Actium marked the peak of the conflict between Octavian and Mark Antony. Led by Agrippa, Octavian's contingent faced the combined fleet of Antony and Cleopatra in waters near the Gulf of Actium, on the Greek west coast. While Antony's forces were large, they were poorly supplied and undermined by Agrippa's previous actions. As the commander of Octavian's fleet, he used his tactical superiority and the naval innovations he had developed in previous conflicts to prevail in the battle. His light and agile fleet overcame Antony's heavy and slow ships. Agrippa also used his understanding of sea and wind currents to put his fleet in an advantageous position, shutting out Antony's forces and inflicting severe damage on his fleet. The turning point of the battle came when Cleopatra, perceiving that the situation was deteriorating, withdrew her fleet from combat and escaped to Egypt. In a moment of weakness, Antony decided to follow her, abandoning his forces and sealing his defeat. With Antony and Cleopatra retreating, the battle quickly became a landslide victory for Agrippa and Octavian. In The Lives of the 12 Caesars, Suetonius described the battle as the crowning achievement of Agrippa's career, whose naval skill turned Octavian's fleet into an unstoppable force, destroying Antony's hope of conquering Rome. The victory at Actium not only crushed Antony's fleet, but also heralded the end of the era of civil wars and the consolidation of Octavian as Rome's one and only leader. Following the victory at Actium and the subsequent annexation of Egypt to the Roman Empire, Agrippa became essential to Augustus. His unwavering loyalty and ability to rule with wisdom and efficiency made him Augustus's right-hand man. In 21 BC, this political and personal bond was formalized when Agrippa married Julia the Elder, Augustus's daughter. Agrippa's marriage to Julia was perceived as a strategic move by Augustus. With this union, he became part of the imperial family, securing his powerful position and his fundamental role in the succession. Julia and Agrippa had 5 children, 2 of whom, Gaius Caesar and Lucius Caesar, were adopted as his heirs by Augustus and became contenders for the imperial throne. Agrippa was thus the father of Augustus's potential successors, which further solidified his prominence in the Roman government. In his histories, Tacitus said that Agrippa, for his prudence and loyalty, was deemed the protector of Augustus's dynasty, and his marriage to Julia made him even more essential to the future of the imperial house. This union was also Augustus's way of retaining the power concentrated in his own family, and Agrippa became a real mainstay of the regime's continuity. Not only was he a superb general, but Agrippa was also one of the most important administrators and urban planners in Roman history. Alongside his wife Julia, he devoted most of the last 2 decades of his life to reforming and modernizing Rome, turning the city into a metropolis befitting the new empire. One of his major contributions was his commitment to public works and improving Rome's infrastructure, which until then had struggled with problems such as water supply and uncontrolled growth. One of his primary achievements was the laying of new aqueducts to supply Rome with water. He supervised the construction of the Aqua Julia and the Aqua Virgo, 2 aqueducts that not only provided a constant drinking water supply, but also allowed for the construction of public baths and fountains, improving the quality of life of Roman citizens. His care for the water supply was so meticulous that, according to Pliny the Elder, Agrippa personally monitored the construction and maintenance of aqueducts, guaranteeing that Rome would never run out of water. One of his most well-known works is the Pantheon, a temple devoted to all the gods, which Agrippa built in 27 BC in the Field of Mars. While the version we now find is a reconstruction by the Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, the original version was designed and completed under Agrippa's supervision. The Pantheon was a symbol of the new peaceful and prosperous era under Augustus, and expressed the unity between the new empire and the gods. The facade inscription of the current building translates as Marcus Agrippa, son of Lucius, for the 3rd time consul, built this, is a lasting testimony to Agrippa's influence on Rome's infrastructure and architecture. Besides his urban reforms, Agrippa also had a pivotal role in managing the empire's provinces. He was dispatched to the east in 23 BC as governor of the eastern provinces, where he displayed his ability as a diplomat and administrator. Agrippa appeased the region without the need of major military campaigns, using his negotiating capabilities to maintain control over the newly conquered territories. In 20 BC, one of the greatest diplomatic feats of Agrippa's career occurred when Rome managed to recover the legionary eagles lost by Crassus decades earlier. He also played a key position in the reorganization of the Roman army. He helped set up a land distribution system for veterans, something that guaranteed soldiers' loyalty and consolidated the Roman military system. He believed that, to maintain the empire at peace, the army needed to be properly cared for and rewarded, preventing insurrections and ensuring order within the Roman borders. After completing his eastern missions in 19 BC, Agrippa returned to Rome as a hero. His remarkable success in keeping the peace and consolidating Roman control in the east with no major military campaigns made him one of the most respected generals and administrators of his day. But his power never posed a threat to Augustus. Agrippa always upheld a loyal and discreet stance, rejecting any desire for individual power, preferring to serve as an advisor and enforcer of the emperor's plans. Agrippa was appointed censor in 18 BC, one of Rome's most prestigious and important positions. He and Augustus carried out a range of reforms to strengthen the Roman state. One of their most notable projects was the reorganization of social classes, the tax system overhaul, and the granting of new rights and privileges to Roman citizens. Agrippa was assigned to the west of the empire between 16 BC and 13 BC, where he commanded the Gaul and Hispania provinces, strategic regions that often experienced upheavals by local tribes. He succeeded in placating the region and ensuring that Hispania became one of Rome's most loyal provinces. In the later stages of his life, he also had a vital role to play in Rome's dynastic politics. As the husband of Julia the Elder, Augustus's daughter, he was deeply integrated into the imperial family. In The Lives of the 12 Caesars, Suetonius noted that Augustus had so much trust in Agrippa that he even contemplated leaving him as the empire's main heir. In 12 BC, after several decades of faithful and effective service to Rome, Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa died aged 51. His passing was a significant loss for Augustus and the empire. Augustus was profoundly devastated by the loss of his most loyal friend and efficient general, even going as far as to say, according to Dio Cassius, that he would not have managed to rule without Agrippa. His loss was a void that no other general or administrator could ever fill with the same expertise and confidence. Agrippa was buried with every honor of the state, and his body was interred in the mausoleum of Augustus. He was one of the few to be given such a distinction, reflecting his importance in Roman history. In his descriptions of Rome's public works, Pliny the Elder wrote that Agrippa built more for the good of Rome than any other individual, and did it out of a spirit of service rather than personal glory. If you enjoyed learning more about the story of this Roman general, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one!